Imagine a world where medicine was less about curing and more about hoping you survive the treatment. A dark era, where the line between medical innovation and outright torture was frighteningly thin, blurred by ignorance, superstition, and an almost total misunderstanding of the intricate workings of the human body. Today, we breathe easy in sterile hospitals, trust anesthesia to spare us from pain, and submit to treatments grounded in scientific evidence. But dare, if you have the courage, to cast your mind back to a time when the operating table was a stage for unimaginable suffering, an era when a diagnosis often meant facing a procedure so horrifying, so excruciating, that modern surgeries, with all their technology and precision, seem like a luxurious spa treatment by comparison. We are about to peel back the layers of history, exposing 7 truly terrifying medical procedures that were once considered the cutting edge of healing. Brace yourself, because what you are about to read will make your skin crawl, your stomach turn, and leave you deeply grateful for every advancement modern medicine has granted us. These dark pages of medical history are, thankfully, firmly behind us. Let's dive into the first ritual of dread. 1. Trepanation, the ancient practice of drilling into the skull. For millennia, long before the first scalpel was sterilized or the concept of germ theory even existed, humans practiced trepanation. It was not an isolated ritual, a primitive superstition of some forgotten tribe. It was a widely spread surgical procedure, crossing cultures and continents, from ancient Peru to Neolithic Europe, persisting well into the early modern period. The premise was frighteningly simple, and yet absolutely terrifying: drilling, scraping, or cutting a hole directly into the skull of a living person. Why, you might ask, would anyone willingly submit to such a barbaric act? And why would anyone perform it? The reasons were as varied as they were sinister, reflecting a disturbing fusion of rudimentary medical theory and deep spiritual belief. Early practitioners believed that trepanation could free evil spirits trapped inside the brain, cure splitting headaches, epilepsy, mental illness, and even relieve pressure from head injuries. Imagine suffering from a persistent migraine, a pain that simply would not yield, only to be told that the solution was a crude chisel and a hammer, or a flint knife slowly scraping your skull while you were fully conscious. There was no anesthesia, beyond perhaps a strong drink that served more as a sedative than actual relief, or a blow to the head to induce unconsciousness. And, of course, there was not the slightest understanding of infection. Survival rates, surprisingly, were not always zero. Skulls found at archaeological sites show clear signs of bone regeneration, indicating that some patients lived for years after the procedure. But what kind of life? The risk of brain infection, irreversible brain damage, and excruciating pain was astronomical. A single cut from an unsterilized tool could introduce deadly pathogens directly into the brain, leading to abscesses, meningitis, and a slow, agonizing death. Even if the patient survived the immediate trauma, the long-term consequences of an opened skull and a compromised brain would have been horrific. This was not merely a surgical procedure, it was a desperate gamble with life and sanity, a testament to humanity's relentless pursuit of cures, no matter how brutal. It is a vivid reminder that, sometimes, the cure itself was far more frightening than the disease. 2. Bloodletting, the universal cure that drained life away. For nearly 2,000 years, from ancient Greece through the late 19th century, bloodletting stood as one of the most common and widely accepted medical treatments. It was not just a procedure, it was a fundamental pillar of medical theory, rooted in the belief that disease originated from an imbalance of the body's 4 humors: blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. Too much blood, and you were feverish, inflamed, delirious. The solution? Drain it. Physicians, barbers, and even ordinary citizens regularly performed phlebotomy, cutting veins with sharp lancets, applying voracious leeches, or using specialized tools to extract blood. Patients suffering from everything, pneumonia, burning fevers, throbbing headaches, and mental illness, were subjected to this exhausting ritual. George Washington, the first president of the United States, famously died after being bled multiple times for a throat infection, with an estimated 3.7 liters, roughly half the blood in his body, removed in less than 24 hours. His doctors, in their fervent belief that they were healing him, likely hastened his death in the most tragic way. The dangers of bloodletting were numerous and, to modern eyes, painfully obvious. Excessive blood loss leads to debilitating weakness, overwhelming dizziness, fainting, and can even induce hypovolemic shock and death. On top of that, the non-sterile conditions under which it was almost always performed opened the door to rampant infection. An unwashed physician's hands, a rusty lancet, or reused leeches could introduce bacteria directly into the bloodstream, turning a simple cut into fatal sepsis. Yet, despite its demonstrable ineffectiveness and clear harm, bloodletting persisted. Why? Because, sometimes, patients felt temporary relief from symptoms, a weakness that was mistaken for improvement, or a fever that subsided naturally, regardless of the intervention. The psychological power of a perceived intervention, combined with the lack of effective alternatives, ensured its terrifying longevity. It is a stark reminder that even the most deeply entrenched medical practices can be completely wrong, and that blindly following tradition can be a fatal mistake, with life or death consequences. 3. Mercury treatments for syphilis, the cure that was a slow poison. Syphilis, a devastating sexually transmitted infection, has plagued humanity for centuries. Before the advent of penicillin in the mid-20th century, its symptoms, from disfiguring sores and rashes to crippling neurological damage and inevitable death, were a source of relentless terror and despair. Desperate for a cure, physicians of the era turned to one of the most toxic elements known to man, mercury. For more than 400 years, mercury was the standard treatment for syphilis. Patients were subjected to a range of mercury-based therapies, each more horrific than the last. They drank mercury compounds, rubbed mercury ointments into their skin, or even underwent mercurial sweats, where they were confined in heated chambers while mercury vapor was released, forcing them to inhale and absorb the poisonous metal through their pores. The belief was that mercury would purify the body of disease, often inducing excessive salivation, uncontrollable vomiting, and incessant diarrhea. The side effects were, predictably, grotesque. Patients frequently suffered from severe mercury poisoning, characterized by swollen and ulcerated gums, painful tooth loss, uncontrollable tremors that prevented any normal movement, devastating kidney failure, severe neurological damage, and extreme psychological disturbances, including full-blown psychosis. Their breath reeked of metal, their mouths filled with open sores, and their bodies were ravaged not only by syphilis but by the very substance meant to cure them. Many patients died not from syphilis itself, but from mercury poisoning inflicted by their own doctors. The cruel irony is that, while mercury sometimes appeared to temporarily alleviate some syphilis symptoms, it rarely cured the disease and almost always caused irreparable, permanent damage. The long-term suffering endured by those treated with mercury paints a grim picture of medical desperation and abysmal ignorance. It is a chilling reminder that, in the absence of true knowledge, even the most dangerous substances can be embraced as salvation, turning the doctor's office into a chamber of slow, agonizing chemical warfare against the patient's own body. 4. Lobotomy, the brain surgery that destroyed minds. In the mid-20th century, while mental illness remained largely misunderstood and untreatable, a new miracle cure emerged, promising to relieve severe psychiatric conditions, the lobotomy. Introduced in the 1930s by Portuguese neurologist Antonio Egas Moniz, who later won a Nobel Prize for his work, the procedure involved severing the connections in the brain's frontal lobes, the area responsible for personality, judgment, and complex thought. Initially performed by drilling holes into the skull, the technique was infamously simplified by American physician Walter Freeman, who developed the ice pick lobotomy. This horrifying method involved inserting a thin instrument, often resembling a sharp ice pick, through the eye socket, above the eyeball, then hammering it through the thin bone and into the brain. Once inside, the instrument was swept back and forth to sever neural connections, often multiple times, all without any direct visualization of the brain. The entire procedure could take mere minutes, frequently without general anesthesia, relying only on electroshock to induce unconsciousness or a local anesthetic to numb the eye area. The goal was to calm agitated patients, reduce severe depression, or relieve intractable psychosis. And in some cases, it did silence the symptoms. but the cost was immense and tragic. Thousands of patients, many of them women, children, or those deemed difficult or uncontrollable, were left with devastating and irreversible brain damage. They frequently became docile, emotionally blunted, apathetic, and lost their vibrant personalities, their creativity, and their intellectual capacities. They were, in essence, shells of their former selves, robbed of their very essence, their humanity. The procedure was performed on approximately 40,000 to 50,000 people in the United States alone before falling out of favor in the 1950s with the advent of safer and more effective antipsychotic medications. The lobotomy remains one of the darkest chapters in modern medicine, a chilling example of how desperation and a lack of ethical oversight can lead to procedures that are not just ineffective, but actively destructive to the human spirit. It stands as a powerful cautionary tale about the dangers of irreversible interventions in the brain and the profound responsibility that comes with attempting to fix the mind. 5. Cadaveric medicine, the cannibalistic cures of yesteryear. While the idea of consuming human remains for medical purposes sends shivers down our spines today, cadaveric medicine, or anthropophagy, was a surprisingly common and respected practice throughout Europe for centuries, reaching its peak between the 16th and 18th centuries. It was not merely a fringe belief, it was endorsed by prominent physicians and apothecaries who prescribed various human body parts as remedies for a wide range of diseases and ailments. The belief system behind it was rooted in the idea that the spirit, or vital essence, of the deceased could be transferred to the living, particularly if the deceased had died violently or suddenly, as their life energy was considered to be preserved. Skulls, blood, fat, and even mummified flesh were all regarded as potent ingredients in the pharmacological arsenal of the time. For example, powdered human skull was prescribed for epilepsy and head trauma, often mixed with wine or other liquids. Human fat was rendered into ointments to treat aches and ailments, or even swallowed for various internal complaints. Fresh blood, still warm from the recently executed, was believed to cure epilepsy and fainting, with spectators at public executions sometimes rushing to drink the blood directly from a decapitated body. Mummy powder, derived from ancient Egyptian mummies, was another highly sought-after ingredient, believed to possess powerful healing properties. It was ground up and ingested for everything from stomach ailments to plague prevention. Demand for mummies was so high that a black market flourished, with unscrupulous merchants even manufacturing mummy powder from ordinary corpses. Beyond the obvious ethical and moral horror of consuming human remains, the actual medical efficacy was, of course, non-existent. Patients were ingesting potentially contaminated and decomposing matter, risking bacterial infections and other diseases. This practice highlights a disturbing intersection of superstition, medical ignorance, and a desperate search for cures at a time when true understanding of disease was scarce. It is a vivid and unsettling reminder of how far medical science has progressed and how profoundly our perceptions of health and humanity have evolved away from such macabre practices. 6. Radium water, the deadly health tonic of the early 20th century. In the early 20th century, following Marie Curie's revolutionary discovery of radium, this newly found element was hailed as a miracle substance. Its mysterious glow and immense energy led many, including physicians and entrepreneurs, to believe it possessed incredible healing powers. This ignited a dangerous craze, the consumption of radium-infused products, most notably radium water. Companies quickly capitalized on the public's fascination, marketing radium water as a cure for everything from arthritis and impotence to mental illness and aging. Prominent figures, including wealthy industrialists, openly endorsed these products, claiming they felt revitalized and healed after drinking radium-laced beverages. One of the most infamous cases was that of Eben Byers, a wealthy American industrialist and athlete, who drank multiple bottles of a patented radium tonic called Radither daily for several years. Byers, initially feeling a surge of energy and vitality, ultimately suffered a truly horrifying fate. His teeth fell out, his jaw disintegrated painfully, and holes formed in his skull. He developed excruciating pain, cancerous tumors throughout his body, and a severely weakened skeletal system, finally dying of radiation poisoning in 1932. His body was so radioactive that he was buried in a lead-lined coffin. The dangers of ingesting radium were, at the time, poorly understood, but the consequences were devastatingly clear. Radium, being chemically similar to calcium, is absorbed by the bones, where it continuously emits alpha radiation, destroying tissue and causing cancer, anemia, and bone necrosis. The glow that fascinated people was literally the element killing them slowly from the inside. The radium water craze serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of unregulated health claims and the public's susceptibility to miracle cures, especially when backed by scientific discoveries that are, in reality, poorly understood. It is a truly chilling example of how the lack of scientific rigor and ethical oversight can transform a promising discovery into a public health catastrophe, leaving a trail of suffering and death in its wake. 7. Amputation without anesthesia or antiseptics. The brutality of early surgery. Today, the idea of surgery without anesthesia is almost unimaginable. We expect to drift into a deep state of unconsciousness, waking up with the procedure complete and pain under control. But for the vast majority of human history, surgery was a brutal and agonizing ordeal, a desperate last resort carried out with terrifying speed and no concept of sterility whatsoever. Amputations, in particular, stand out as one of the most horrifying common procedures ever performed. Imagine a soldier on a blood-soaked battlefield, a limb crushed and mangled, or a civilian with a gangrenous limb, swollen and black, facing an imminent amputation. There were no drugs to numb the pain, beyond perhaps a strong swig of whiskey to dull the senses or a piece of leather to bite down on until the edge of consciousness. The surgeon, often a barber surgeon, worked as fast as humanly possible, knowing that every second of the operation was pure torture for the patient. With crude saws and sharp knives, they cut through flesh, muscle, and bone, the patient's screams echoing through the rudimentary operating theater. The goal was speed, not precision, because speed was the only way to minimize the patient's agony and shock, which itself often led to death right there on the table. Beyond the unimaginable pain, the other silent killer was infection. Surgeons operated with dirty, unwashed hands, often wearing aprons caked with dried blood from previous procedures, using instruments that were never sterilized. The concept of bacteria and germs was centuries away, a lethal ignorance. Wounds were frequently wrapped in dirty rags, or simply left open to the elements, an open invitation for death to take hold. Consequently, post-operative infection was rampant, leading to gangrene, sepsis, and a slow, agonizing death for an enormous percentage of patients who survived the initial trauma of the surgery itself. A successful amputation often meant escaping the operating table only to succumb to infection days or weeks later, in prolonged agony. The sheer brutality of these procedures, the raw, unfiltered pain and the near-inevitable march toward infection, makes them truly horrifying. It underscores the incredible leap forward that anesthesia and antiseptics represented, transforming surgery from a desperate, final act of butchery into a precise, life-saving science. We are truly fortunate to live in an era where such barbarism is a relic of the past, a somber reminder of humanity's long struggle against disease and suffering. These 7 procedures are just a glimpse into the dark, often grotesque, history of medicine. They are stark reminders of how far we have come, thanks to relentless scientific inquiry, rigorous ethical considerations, and an ever-deepening understanding of the human body. From drilling holes in skulls to drinking radioactive water, humanity's quest for health took some truly terrifying turns. We should never take for granted the incredible advancements that allow us to receive safe, effective, and humane medical care today. The next time you visit a doctor, take a moment to be incredibly grateful that these barbaric practices are firmly relegated to the history books, where they belong. If these shocking medical facts from the past intrigued you, and perhaps horrified you, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more mind-blowing curiosities and untold stories from history. What other bizarre historical facts would you like us to uncover? Let us know in the comments below.